Watch this before you invest another dollar in tech. In just one weekend, Invisible Computer Systems helped generate over $14 billion in sales worldwide. Not human sales pitches, but pure software execution. I'm Hank. As an AI and tech investor, I look only for the infrastructure plays that are already executing, not the hype. While most investors are still arguing if this is a hype bubble or a fad, three specific companies have already executed, creating advantages that are now impossible to copy. Power is shifting, money is moving, and those three companies are securing billions in contracts right now. This isn't speculation, it's infrastructure. If you leave this video, you are guaranteed to miss the top 3 AI stocks that will dominate 2026. Before we dive into the specific companies, we need to address the central anxiety that keeps most investors stuck: the fear of the bubble. Do you remember the late 1990s and the early 2000s? The internet was brand new. People thought it was just a toy, a fad, something that would fade away. Investors who were scared and early were wrong, but the underlying fear was understandable because the market back then was defined by zero revenue, zero profits, and massive dreams. Companies were valued on maybes. My viewer is stuck because they keep trying to apply the lessons of the last economic bubble to a market that is fundamentally different. And they keep trying wrong solutions like throwing money at any stock with technology in the name, which doesn't work. This is where clarity and intentionality come in. We need to shift your perspective. The smart computer revolution isn't a repeat of the late 90s. Let's use a simple analogy. Imagine you run a popular lemonade stand. In the 1990s, investors would buy your stock simply because you told them you planned to sell lemonade next year. You hadn't sold a single cup yet, but the enthusiasm was high. That was hype without execution. Today, the situation is completely reversed. The lemonade stands are already selling thousands of cups. They have lines around the block. They are highly profitable and are expanding to more street corners every week. The execution is already happening. The smart computer revolution is not coming. It's here. It's already generating billions. This shift from a world of dreams to a world of dominant execution is the core reason why the 3 stocks we discussed today have already created an unassailable fortress that competitors can't touch. We are creating this video with the intention of solving the problem of identifying real, profitable dominance versus temporary market enthusiasm. The 2 economies. Here is the controversial take, the opinion that separates the winners from the followers. We are currently operating in 2 completely separate economies, and they are moving in opposite directions. This is the truth nobody wants to discuss openly. The first economy. This is the economy you read about in headlines. It's struggling. We see traditional job openings dropping by 30% since late 2022. Construction is slow. Traditional manufacturing is tough. Regular foundational businesses are fighting against inflation and high interest rates just to stay alive. They are characterized by scarcity, slow growth, and immense pressure. But the second economy? It's growing like crazy. Since November 2022, the biggest stock indexes haven't just recovered, they have surged over 70%. And this surge is not happening because everything is getting better. It is happening because a handful of companies are pulling the entire thing up by themselves. This is a perfect example of illustrating with proof. Think of the classroom analogy again. You have 100 students taking a complex test. Most students, the traditional economy, are scraping by with C's and D's, but 5 students are scoring perfect 100s on every single test. When the teacher averages the scores, the class looks great, but the real story is that 5 students figured out how to study smarter and work faster than everyone else. The smart computer companies are those 5 students. They figured it out early. They built the necessary infrastructure. They achieved customer lock-in. And now they are so far ahead that they have created advantages that competitors simply cannot copy, no matter how much money they throw at the problem. Most investors feel smart because they bought a stock with tech in the name. But feeling smart and making real consistent money are 2 different things. The true winners, the ones that will dominate 2026, are executing quietly, building complex systems, and creating barriers to entry that are effectively impossible to breach in the short term. This is why generalized investing fails and specific intentional investing in infrastructure succeeds. Stock number one, Nvidia. Let's start with the company everyone knows, but few truly understand the depth of their domination, Nvidia. You probably know Nvidia makes chips, but that's like saying Ferrari makes cars. It misses the critical intentionality behind their success. Nvidia's success is built entirely on the solve problems element. They solve the foundational problem of powering the AI revolution. Imagine you are trying to build the fastest, most complicated machine ever conceived, an advanced smart computer system. You need a special engine. This engine must be incredibly powerful, precise, and uniquely suited to the specific mathematical processes that define machine learning. Nvidia makes that engine, and critically, only Nvidia knows how to make that engine better than anyone else right now. Every single person trying to build a competitive smart system must buy that specialized engine from this one company. Here is the undeniable illustrate with proof data. Nvidia controls about 92% of the market for the specific processing units that run advanced smart systems. That is not market leadership, that is complete fortress-like domination. But their genius lies in their ecosystem, which creates a near impossible barrier to switching. Remember the Apple analogy? Apple didn't just sell you a phone. They sold you the entire ecosystem, the apps, the music, the cloud storage. Once you were in the Apple world, switching became cumbersome and expensive. Nvidia has engineered the same lock-in. Companies don't just buy the hardware, they build their entire systems around Nvidia's software, specific training protocols, and proprietary processes. Switching away from Nvidia is not just expensive. For many massive corporations, it is functionally impossible without pausing years of development. Furthermore, they are not resting. While competitors are frantically trying to replicate technology Nvidia developed 2 years ago, Nvidia is already 2 generations ahead, planning and executing the future. This confidence is backed up by undeniable proof. Nvidia has more than 37 billion in orders already booked through 2026. This isn't a prediction, these are actual signed contracts. This is money that is already secured regardless of short-term market fluctuations. This is the definition of stability in an unstable economy. Of course, there are risks. The market demands perfection, and any supply chain hiccup could hurt the stock. Also, the largest customers, the biggest tech giants, are beginning to design their own internal chips. They aren't doing this to replace Nvidia entirely, but rather to gain leverage and options. When you have $37 billion in locked orders and are years ahead of the closest competitor, you have room to absorb these punches. Nvidia solved the core problem of computational power, and until someone can match that hardware and replicate that software ecosystem, they remain the dominant infrastructure play for 2026. Stock number 2, Google. Now let's move to the company everyone assumed missed the boat, Google, Alphabet. Just 1 or 2 years ago, the consensus was that Google was too big, too slow, and too dependent on traditional search revenue to compete in the fast-moving AI race. People were writing them off. They were wrong. Google's position is an example of a smart have-opinion strategy coupled with a core solve problem solution. Google just solved a massive problem for one of the biggest technology companies in the world, Meta. Google licensed its sophisticated smart computer system, Gemini, to Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. This is massive. Think of the engine analogy again. Google invented a new kind of powerful engine, and the biggest car company in the world, Meta in terms of daily user reach, just decided to put that engine in all of its vehicles. Suddenly, Google's system reaches more daily users than almost any other competing system. Why did Meta choose Google? because Meta, like many other large tech companies, is tired of being financially shackled to Nvidia. Nvidia's chip prices are astronomically high, and large-scale buyers like Meta are spending billions just to maintain their systems. Meta needs an alternative, a backup plan, a way to gain leverage and avoid being completely dependent on one supplier for their infrastructure. Google provides that option through their own custom-designed chips called TPUs, Tensor Processing Units. These chips are not necessarily designed to beat Nvidia outright, but they are designed to weaken Nvidia's control and introduce much-needed price competition for massive-scale operations. For Google, this is the perfect strategic move. They are no longer just competing in the cloud, they are competing across the entire digital infrastructure spectrum. Google's cloud business is already demonstrating phenomenal growth, increasing 34% year over year. Their internal smart computer systems process an astounding 7 billion calculations per minute, and they possess the ultimate lock-in proof. Over 300 million people are already paying for their premium services, creating a loyal, established user base for their new integrated systems. Google's system isn't fully proven at the highest, most cutting-edge levels yet, and while their growth is significant, some argue it's not growing as fast as their current high stock price suggests it should be. The real danger is if Gemini stumbles, or if developers resist building on Google's platform, or if the system fails to deliver its lofty promises. Google is not making a quick pivot. They have been building this system quietly and steadily for years. They have the chips, TPUs, they have the cloud infrastructure, and now, through the Meta deal, they have the unprecedented distribution network reaching billions. If they execute this comprehensive strategy correctly, 2026 will be the year Google rewrites its own story, moving from a search giant to the essential backbone of the distributed smart computer world. Stock number 3, Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC. Here is the stock that most general investors don't even track, but which might be the most important company in the entire world right now. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. To appreciate TSMC, we need to quickly tell your story of the entire supply chain. When you buy a chip from Nvidia, who actually makes it? When Apple designs the fastest phone chip, who fabricates it? When AMD or Qualcomm develop their next generation, who prints it? The answer to all of them is TSMC. Think of TSMC as the world's most advanced high-security printer, except instead of printing paper, they print the most complicated, intricate computer chips on Earth. TSMC manufactures roughly 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Everyone needs TSMC. They are the essential ingredient. They are the definition of irreplaceable. Their dominance is not just about quantity, it's about technological superiority. They are not merely making today's chips, they are making tomorrow's. Their newest fabrication technology, called 2 nanometer, 2 mm, solves one of the single biggest operational problems currently facing the AI industry: massive electricity consumption. Right now, running these large smart computer systems requires entire power plant levels of electricity. It is financially unsustainable and environmentally shocking. TSMC's 2 nanometer chips are revolutionary because they use 25% to 30% less power while running at the same speed as older chips. Companies are desperate for this efficiency. They are paying enormous premiums for TSMC's manufacturing capabilities because it immediately cuts their operating costs and solves a critical infrastructure problem. TSMC has essentially solved the power crisis before it became a crisis for their biggest clients. Every time Nvidia gets a large order, TSMC gets work. Every time Google expands its cloud business, TSMC gets work. Every time anyone needs advanced, efficient silicon, there is only one place to go. We must acknowledge the immense political risk. TSMC is based in Taiwan. Any geopolitical instability between Taiwan and mainland China presents an enormous, unpredictable risk to the stock. If any conflict or political crisis arises, the stock price could suffer a catastrophic decline. This is real risk, the kind you cannot hedge or control with traditional market data. However, the investment thesis is powerful. You don't have to pick which chip designer wins. You don't have to guess if it will be Nvidia, Google, or someone else. You simply own the company that makes the chips for all of them. TSMC is the non-negotiable engine room of the entire smart computer revolution. Their lead in manufacturing technology is so significant that catching them would require competitors a decade and hundreds of billions of dollars. That is not a small advantage. That is a fortress. So let's bring this entire framework together and remember the promise we made in the first sentence. The smart computer revolution is here. It is profitable. It is changing how business is done right now. The average investor is still waiting for the breakthrough moment. They are waiting for someone to tell them it's safe to invest. They are stuck in the mindset of chasing trends that they can't maintain, which only brings tourists to their portfolio. But the smart money knows better. They understand that consistent value brings residents. The companies winning this race have something competitors cannot copy or replicate quickly: scale, lock-in, and infrastructure. Nvidia has the ecosystem that every serious smart computing operation depends on. This is their undeniable technological lock-in. Google has the distribution network, leveraging deals like the Meta partnership to reach billions of global users every day, establishing a permanent footing in the rapidly expanding market. And TSMC has the unparalleled manufacturing capability that everyone needs and that nobody else can match: the single-source factory for the world's most efficient and advanced processing units. These are not gambles. These are not lottery tickets. These are companies that have already won their markets and are now using their dominance to accelerate their lead. 2026 is going to be the year where infrastructure matters more than innovation, where profitable execution beats pure excitement, where the winners, the students who scored perfect 100s, separate even further from everyone else chasing them. The question is not whether this revolution will change the world. It already has. The question is whether you are positioned to benefit from it. Your repetition creates your reputation. The consistency you apply to your investment strategy, fueled by data and intentionality, is what builds long-term success. If you found this analysis helpful, and if you believe that this intentional, structured approach to finance is what you need to scale your success, then I need you to do two things right now. 1. Hit that subscribe button. Join the community focused on intentional growth and systemic thinking. 2. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these three stocks, Nvidia, Google, or TSMC, you think will perform best in 2026. Engage with the content to signal to the algorithm that this community is active and valuable, because the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.